Wargula,
Here.
Vanderbrink.
I'm not
Oh,
sure yet.
who's taking minutes? Somebody take minutes. We don't have Doug.
We know where he is.
He said he might not be able to make it. He was gonna call in. He hasn't called in.
We got that guy, David.
Yeah, we got 2 minutes. So we have Wargula,
Here.
Vanderbrink,
Here.
Here,
Page, Yatsky,
Here.
And Shots and Johnson are here. I feel like I'm being put on trial here with all of you over there, and I'm the only one here.
Okay, meeting was called to order at 6:49. We're calling the meeting to order. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
A second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okey dokey, we're in the public comment section. We do have an individual here. Are you here from the public?
I am here from the public. I'm Kyle Grahn. I'm the chairman of the town of Nipissing.
Kyle?
G-R-A-H-N. So I'm just an observer at this point, no comment.
No comment?
No.
Oh, okay, you're just here to watch us sit here?
Well, if that's what you do, then that's what I'll watch.
Well, that's what we'll do during the budget hearing. At 7, we can adjourn into the regular meeting, which is about 9 minutes. So apparently there is no one here to give us public comment.
I'm gonna step out and finish. I'm having issues with my printer.
Okay. So we're missing Doug, who was gonna call in. He must have forgotten.
So,
Yeah.
seems like there's more, just,
Yeah. Should we explain for our guests that, our budget hearing is not for us to bring up debate and comment right now. This is really for the public and
Listen,
and listening, and so that's why during this time our agenda was really, if there was anyone here to share.
I don't know if Mike represents, us from the township side, so he brings issues or get everything back to us, so I just have the same concerns everybody else does about money.
Yep.
yeah,
We're in the, different than the other 2 members of the fire district, that we have 2 fire departments that we have to pay for trucks for and that type of thing, and there's,
but if you want to talk about that, this might be a time to talk about that because you're not going to be able to, well, you can speak in the
there should be a
next.
public comment
Yeah, there
period in the
is.
other one.
There is. Oh, wait till I start coming.
like that.
Wait till I start coming. Danny went and got me some vitamin C.
Got some in my man bag, but I left that in my stomach. When I started to rip, so I threw it in the grocery
You know
bag.
what I call it?
Can't move it around very often.
We call it a MERS. A MERS. Coming in big.
Darn thing, I don't know how they sewed it, but must have started unraveling and when I picked it up, it just like a strip on a bag of dog food or something. Oh, kind of keep me out.
I'm gonna replace that Christmas tree. Trees. No trees this year.
My supplier informed me that he's not gonna have trees for me this year. So I'm thinking to let it off
Where are you going?
as far south as I can get.
The funny thing is, you go north though. Where does Mama wanna go?
She wants to go wherever I go.
Where would you like to, besides as far as?
She's always concerned about going too far for too long, you know, because the grandkids might need something.
Yeah.
We're past that point.
Mine aren't that close by, so I don't have to worry.
What is the city gonna do without any purple Christmas trees this year?
You had purple ones?
Pink?
We had
Red.
9 or 10 different colors we did.
Were they flocked? Did you flock them that way?
They were not flocked, they were painted.
Oh,
It was a vegetable-based paint.
cool.
They were cool.
Red, let's see, red, pink, purple, turquoise, dark blue, light blue.
I always enjoyed driving past it.
Most Christmas trees they paint before you cut them anyway, don't they?
A lot of those they do. They paint them green.
Never know what the weather's gonna do. Sometimes those needles don't.
I've got one family that has 4 girls, and then every year, each girl got to pick whatever color they wanted.
Ooh,
And so they were at our place a week and a ago and got pumpkins and stuff, so we've been telling people that they didn't have to do trees, you know.
I bet you're right.
And one
Broke their hearts.
hi Doug. We're doing the budget hearing right now. I'm gonna put you on the speaker, and at 7, I'll adjourn into the regular monthly meeting. Okay? All right. I'll turn you up. Can you hear us?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yes. So I took minutes for the budget hearing. We don't have anyone here to speak to the overall budget.
Okay, sorry, I missed the 6:45 time. I thought it was 7. My mistake.
Our other meeting's at 7, so it's okay.
Right.
We do have,
I see that now, I'm sorry.
so we do have a person in the audience who is not speaking during the budget hearing, and it is Kyle Grahn, and he is the town chair of Nepieskan.
Okay, what's his last name?
Grahn, Grahn, 2 H's or HN?
GRA.
Grahn, Grahn.
Okay,
Okay, I'm gonna make, and I'll send you the minutes for the budget.
okay.
Here, I got 2 minutes.
Glad we didn't do it for half an hour.
Yeah, it was smart to do it, so you guys were smart. Can you tell me when it's 7?
Yep.
Okay.
It's not 7.
Hmm?
It's not 7.
Okay, thanks.
take one and pass it around, please.
Yes, sir. Please. Here, I can talk. I got to.
Thank you.
Just one thing. That's the same one. Oh, you're gonna return it to the chief.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock.
Teacher one.
We'll adjourn this meeting into our regular meeting. We'll do another roll call. Workula,
Here.
Anderson,
Here.
Page,
Here.
Hatsky,
Here.
Schatzinger,
Here.
Iverson.
Here.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Move to the agenda.
Thank you, Jonathan. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Who was second?
Julie,
Okay.
all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same
Aye.
sign. Okay, all right, public comment. Mr. Grant, did you want to speak at this time?
I'll just let it go through. I'm not intelligent. I just want to kind of watch and see how things go, and maybe there'll be an opportunity for me to speak on a particular agenda item.
No, there won't be.
There won't be.
Did you want to just introduce yourself so that we would know? I mean, I know that you now just did, but being it's open in the meeting.
And
Yeah,
this is the time to talk
Yeah,
on any
I'd like
agenda.
to, but see, the thing is, I'm coming not fully prepared, that's probably my fault, so I wanted to hear,
Okay.
what's being said,
Okay.
and potentially add comment in along the way, but if the board will not allow that matter,
No.
most of the time when I go to interactions, that they allow public comment on a particular agenda item, but if you're not allowing that, then that's fine.
Would you like to waive the board rules to allow him to speak on a topic that he chooses, or do you prefer to keep it in public comments?
I'm fine with him putting it in whenever.
Okay. Jolene,
Yeah.
what about you guys?
I-
Okay.
But you can come here, because I can't hear him back.
Yeah, I don't want to, wherever you want me to sit, so you're not like, so
You
I'm
can
not
come up here, that's fine.
by Jolie.
Yeah, come on over.
You might want to stay away from me, I have a cold.
I don't
Yeah,
bite.
sit towards that end.
Yeah. But Sandra, I know you, good to see you. But why don't you introduce yourself and say again kind of who you're kind of representing and why you would even be interested in weighing in on something.
Well, we're no different, so like I said, the chairman of the town of Nebraska, Mike represents us here. We're no different than anybody else at this table here that, we've got concerns about money and making budgets and everything else. So I don't need to tell anybody else that's sitting here. The challenge we have that's unique is that we have two fire departments that serve our township, the fire district and the Berlin Fire Department. And of course, there is not, nor would I expect there to be planning between those two about when equipment expenditures may arise and those type of things. So it just creates, challenges for along the way. And I don't have a lot of, it's more for me a fact-finding thing. So I understand, equalized value and how those calculations are made. It's hard to get, for me, down to some of the facts about how to properly, compare fire departments, because we are in the process of doing that as well.
Well, for equalized value, the city of Ripon and the town of Ripon use equalized value. You guys use a different.
Oh, they're supposed to be equalized too.
It's based on assessed value, and they use the equalized value based on assessed value, and that's not a state. You use a different algorithm than we do.
So we do not use equalized value?
You use it based on assessment. What we do for equalized value is we go to the state website and we look at the equalized value for the city of Ripon and for the town of Ripon, and then we plug that in, the improved equalized value. And so your equalized value is a very different animal than what we use, because you used an assessed value and then project equalized value based upon the number of property parcels that are served by the Ripon district.
Is that your understanding, Mike? So why don't we use equalized value?
That was changed, I think, in 2017. It reduces what you pay.
Right, and yeah, but but I think, whatever it should be equal or that type of thing. I'm just trying to really in the end understand. So we've got one fire department that's got a $200,000 budget, one that's got a whatever you're gonna pass tonight for a budget in the end. So that's where I'm trying to compare it and understand. I also am not trying to compare because things can come out of comparisons that aren't fair. So I'm trying to figure out how do you most accurately make a comparison between two, what are those factors? If you look at what is its cost per capita person that you serve, what is its cost per equalized value, what is its ISO rating, those types of things in the end. So that's what I'm just trying to understand because we have lots of people in our township that are concerned about that rising cost for Ripon.
We only have a 1% increase built into the budget.
And I'm not making any comment as far as an increase or a decrease or that type of thing.
Yeah, when I ran the numbers for the town of Nepiescum, using the improvement on the 444 parcels with equalized value, it was a substantially higher number than what you have there.
Right, and in the end, we should be, if that should be the number, then we should be equal to. I don't know why we're not.
The board changed it 5 years ago?
I think that actually got changed in 2015, didn't it?
Or 7 years ago?
Wasn't that done because they were just splitting it, they wanted it more accurate? And the way I understood is why they did that.
Yeah.
So the assessor had to get involved because you don't have all your,
all the sections of the whole
all your
township.
sections are in there, so they took those sections.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not mistaken, the township is about split in half, but Rush Lake is in the middle of that.
Right about, yeah.
And it wasn't fair to tax Rush Lake, basically.
Right, sure.
So there's a lot of land, and Ripon's got the same thing.
Right, sure.
And the city, the stuff that they annexed before, they don't get taxes on that either. So it was just improvements, and so they just took the improvements on those, however many parcels you had that were in the Ripon fire district.
Yep. And that part, that's fine. I'm not here to, raise any concern about how it's divided or anything like that. I don't have any issue with that. And some of this stuff too, it's probably a continuity issue when you have different, I know Mike's been here for a while, but for us being a smaller township, access to a lot of that stuff, you're like, where's resolution XYZ was passed in what year, and you can't even find it, or it's buried in somewhere.
Well, and they've been helping me. I've only been here since May.
Yeah.
So they're helping me, and I was a former county administrator, so I just go to the state website and do the calculation based on equalized value.
Yep.
But then they explained to me that they changed Nepiescum several years ago.
Yeah. So we're being evaluated where it would be more if you did it the same way as everybody else.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Be a lot.
And I think that was the reason why it was, because of.
I just want to be fair about it, and in the end, like I said, I don't want to get into this. And I'm also trying to figure out how do you measure a fire department? How do you know what right looks like? From a budget, from a number of calls, that type of thing. And so when you look at two of them, how do you accurately compare that without swapping war stories? Because you can do that all day.
Well, you're looking for empirical evidence.
Yes. Yep. To take, I think emotion prevails where facts are absent, and I want to be able to understand that. And I've never been to one of these meetings. Mike does a good job representing this, but it's something that started to come up, along the way about okay, the gap between Berlin and Ripon and what we pay has been growing. So Berlin has kind of stayed constant with their budget, and Ripon is growing. So when people look at that, it's like, oh, we need to have an answer sometimes, and I don't have what that answer is. And that's where the challenge comes in, because then, stories come out, this and that type of thing. So I just want to know whatever the facts are.
All good questions.
Yeah, so that's why I'm here, just to have a dialogue, because if I sat there and said that, and I couldn't talk to you guys, that wouldn't be a very good conversation.
We probably couldn't hear you either.
Yeah, right.
The other thing is we're going into a 5-year strategic plan, which is going to help us understand what we are and where we're going.
Sure.
And it'll look at the budget, and it will look at equipment, and it will look at staffing and all of those things.
Right. Yeah.
So that's one of our decisions tonight too.
Yeah, that'll be helpful for us, from a planning standpoint. It's a big pinch to have two fire departments acquiring assets in the same year, in the same calendar or fiscal year. And I think the other thing that's a challenge when you look at the budget cycle, a lot of times when the towns are, at least in our township, we always have that budget hearing in October. So the fire departments don't have their budgets done yet by that time. So we're forced to finalize our budget when this is not done. And you're no different than, I don't think, than the other fire department would do, so not to make comparisons there, but I mentioned the same thing. So when you have to finalize your budget, but you don't know a major component of what that might be, that creates issues.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm hoping that in the future, that whenever Town of Ripon does theirs and City of Ripon, I don't know when that happens.
City of Ripon doesn't do their budget hearing till November.
Right. So I don't know when you guys do yours.
Our hearing is in November.
Yeah.
Part of the issue is Fond du Lac County does its budget late.
Oh, okay.
That's why. But Fond du Lac County does their budget hearings in November, and then if the county board does not accept it, they go back the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, and they're still listening around.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So that's a cultural thing from Fond du Lac County. Other counties that I worked in did it earlier, and that would help the towns and other cities in the.
And I'm trying to be respectful of your time too. Some of the other things we run into, like for example, in Berlin, Green Lake County will allocate portions of their ARPA funds to that, but we're not in that county, so we don't get to take advantage of that. So we're a township that doesn't receive our services from really any of the counties that we're in, right? We're in Winnebago County, we're served by Green Lake and Fond du Lac County. So a lot of times when that stuff's worked just in that zone.
Yeah.
And we're probably not all that unique. I'm sure there's other instances of that out there, but just, I'm sure Mike has brought that up. It just becomes a challenge for us to,
Well, and
figure
it's
out.
difficult to have a bifurcated system. When you have two fire, it's always difficult when you're split like that, because Appleton makes Calumet County a very rich county. But then they're also in Outagamie County and Winnebago County. So there's a lot of, that's messy.
Right.
Hopefully this won't be as messy for you.
So when we look at, when we compare, this year we switched to, well, in 2023, we'll have all Ripon EMS. I know this is not an EMS discussion, but the total township will be going that way. But that's evaluated a completely different way as far as in Berlin. They look at equalized value, number of calls, your total area, and then, I can't remember what the last one is. So each one of those is weighted by 1/4%. So everybody does it a little bit differently. Just trying to understand that, and how do you know if the fire department's doing a good job? Is the big question. What metrics does this board use to determine if the fire department is meeting those or not?
Those are very good questions, and I think we have to establish a matrix for that. So that's part of the strategic plan. Okay. So I'm going to move on, and hopefully we can blow through some of this stuff and get to the meat of the meeting. And you're welcome to come to these meetings anytime you want.
Well, hopefully I'm done in April, so I'm not sure.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so Doug sent us the minutes of the early October meeting. You did not send us minutes from last week, correct?
That's correct, Helen.
Okay, so that meeting was October 4th. So I would entertain a motion to accept the report submitted by the secretary for Tuesday, October 4th.
Move to approve.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
All those, is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, I guess I can stop taking these. Treasurer's report.
I don't have anything this week. I'm sorry, I'm up in a parking lot at North
Yep.
Oshkosh North, waiting for my son to be done with his violin lesson, so I don't have anything right now.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Chief, do you wanna go through your reports?
You like to see this?
I was just gonna, that's what I was gonna start with, because. We had some auto repairs for DIH. The foremost promotions, that was all our public education supplies that we buy annually. That was a $2,590. And toner, battery for the antique engine, and some miscellaneous things. That's about it. There's very little on this.
What's the child?
That's basically child support. That's taken out of somebody's check. So,
Oh, it's a garnished?
yeah, it's a child deduction, yeah. That's kind of, that's all I got, really. I don't have anything else.
And you're,
As far as
okay,
accounts payable. So, you'll see, we ran 35 calls for the month. We're at 321 for the year. We gave mutual aid 6 times, didn't receive any for this month. We also, our open house was a huge success. Thank you to everybody for the support. We did public education because of Fire Safety Month. We did public education and in all the schools and daycares. And then we did our biannual daylight savings time. We teamed up with Roadhouse Pizza, Ace Hardware. We delivered pizzas in the fire truck last night. If they're working smoke detectors, their pizzas were donated by Roadhouse, and if they weren't, then we provided smoke detectors or batteries. The first 4 I believe we went to didn't have working batteries in their smoke detectors. So we gave them batteries, and I think we gave away 1 or 2 smoke detectors. I don't have the final counts because that was just last night. But I think we made a difference in some people's homes. Nothing to report on the upstairs garage or grounds. Fire inspections are complete with the exception of 1 for the Ripon Medical Center because they get biannual inspections and they requested their inspection to be done in November. That does not go on the tax roll. That gets billed out separately to them because they're after November 1st. So they do, they request when they want those, and again, those are twice a month, or twice a year. So, so that's that. Grant application deadline or update, I've heard nothing back on the grant. That's not due back till January. We're January 21st, I believe, we're supposed to know if we got the grant for the extrication equipment. And nothing from the Webster's grant yet either. So.
AEDs from the foundation?
Oh, yeah, thank you. The foundation, we put in the grant for the AEDs. They meet November 8th. So hopefully we hear something soon after that.
Well, I'll let you know.
Yeah, I mean, I hope to hear something.
It's like a no-brainer.
Yeah, but we still have to wait for the process to be done and so on and so forth.
What did you say about the Webster's grant?
Yeah, we put in for a Webster's grant. I believe I
Because they're not due yet.
asked for that. That was for educational materials.
So my guess is it won't be for a while yet when you hear that.
Webster, I think the Webster's grant is in December,
You're right,
I believe.
right, I think so too.
So, but we just put in for $1,000.
I think so.
And then the monthly budget, I think we're looking pretty good right now. We have a lot of repairs coming in from, we still haven't paid the bill from the renters for the $11,000 or whatever it's gonna be, $10,000 for the steering boxes. You guys all knew about that. And we've had some other repairs come up since then, but that's it.
Okay, any questions for the chief? Otherwise, we're gonna move on to the meat of the meeting.
Now, the new tires for engine 30,
Mhm.
you put a lot of tires on them lately, haven't
Engine 30 is the old antique engine.
they? Oh,
That's the old antique engine.
okay.
And so that was a split cost with the association. Yeah, if you remember, that came out of that donation money. But we do replace, we're on a replacement program for our tires. We had that tire blowout a few years back, and ever since then, we try to do one rig a year, because that way it's on like a 7-year rotation. And, the worst thing for those vehicles is not to move. And so, but yeah, that wasn't for that, that was for the antique engine.
You have a project update that says upstairs. Did I miss it? What did you say about upstairs?
Nothing to report upstairs,
I just saw it
garage.
here.
Yeah,
It's on every agenda.
yeah, it's kind of like a status quo
Sure.
type thing,
I didn't realize it was just there.
so.
Okay. If there are no questions, we'll move to old business. So we have a lot to discuss in old business. The first is approved purchase of a new fire truck. So,
I have some,
yes, sir?
don't we have to, vote on the accounts payable?
Oh, we do? Okay.
Yep.
Would you like to make that motion
Sure,
to accept the accounts payable?
yes.
Good catch, Mike. I'm not thinking straight tonight. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Gary. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, it passes. Anything else I've messed up on today?
Today.
Am I okay to keep this?
Sure, you can just bring a copy.
Or do I have to get it back? Okay.
Yes.
I was just gonna write on it, so I didn't have to. Can I get it back to you?
No, you know what? It's on my computer, so you can keep it.
Okay, I appreciate that, thank you.
But that's not the newest one.
Okay, then I'll do it. When I-
I'll see if I have a newer. Before you leave, give me your email and I'll email you the newest one. For 23. Because it depends on what we do for the budget tonight, and we're only proposing a 1% increase for levy, so. Okay, approved purchase of a new fire truck. What's your pleasure? Do you want to discuss it, or do you want to make a motion and a second to get it on the floor for discussion? Because we're gonna have to have a motion for it anyway.
I'll make a motion to approve purchase of the fire truck.
Okay, Doug. Is there a
Well,
second?
can you be more specific to say the one that was presented upon from where, Pierce?
Whatever you want to say.
I'll accept this as a friendly amendment.
Okay, so it's the approval of the purchase based on the specs of the machine presented by Pierce Trucking, is that what they're called? Pierce,
Pierce Manufacturing.
okay, Pierce Manufacturing. Doug said he would accept that. Are you gonna second, or is anybody gonna second?
I'll second. I have a comment then.
Well, you can do that after we vote on it.
Wait, there should be discussion before we vote.
Oh, yeah, you're right. We have to, yeah, you're right. Thank you, Mike. See, I
Second,
told
second
you.
and then discussion.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and start. Thank you, Mike. See, you should be running
Comment
this
slash
meeting.
question. I think they said the Cummins was 30,000 more for the engine versus.
Approximately.
Approximately. I guess in the grand scheme of it, my question is, would it be more beneficial, I mean, it's what, 880,000? To just have 30 more thousand associated with something, like, in the little bit of research that I was doing online, it just seemed like the Cummins was the stronger of the two engines. So, I don't know, and maybe that's wrong, maybe 30,000 is important, you know, money is important, but I just don't know if that's maybe something we want to talk about.
So I had a discussion about that today, and my questions were, this engine, like, I brought up what we talked about, what you said the other night, that I'm not a fan of that engine. The engine's been used for a long time. Pierce has been using that engine in about for the last 2 years. And there's hundreds of vehicles that have that engine, and she assures me, and so does Renner's Fire Equipment, that it's a good engine, and it's, you know,
Is there a difference in the manufacturer warranty that you get between
that I don't,
two?
why don't we call her and she can answer some of these questions for us too, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no,
Because,
Well, before you call her, is there any other, let's,
Yeah, like,
is there any
okay.
other question we want to ask her?
good one. So we're questioning the motor, okay?
So I don't know, maybe fire trucks don't even have, maybe you're buying, maybe the warranty comes from Pierce and it's 5 years no matter what you get on there. I don't know how.
Yeah, that's a question for her to answer, and it's a great question, because again, I told her today, I said, what if they stop making this engine 2 years from now? Pierce is gonna, we haven't taken delivery of our new engine yet.
Yeah.
And she said then, if that was the case, they would give you a new option. If you had the engine and something happened to it, obviously we're gonna stand behind it. Well, so that's the same exact conversation I had today, because I have the same concerns you do, you know, but $30,000, I was trying to save money, where are we gonna save money?
Yeah,
You know?
maybe it's worth it, I don't know.
So, any other questions though, like Joanne?
That was the only one I had.
Mike, do you have questions?
I do, it doesn't really pertain to, I actually have more comment than it doesn't really pertain to questions specifically on the truck.
Oh, okay. Barry or Gary?
I was gonna say that Packer engine probably isn't that bad a deal in a fire truck. You know,
Yeah,
if you're-
that might not be.
If you're running over the mountains
Sure.
and running it every day, that's where we have our problems.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know that it'd be worth 30 more to get the Cummins, which is
For what will
a
we
much
use it
better
for?
engine. But
So one of the problems Fox Crossing had was they had a lot of service issues with Cummins, and they had a lot of issues, and she could probably touch more on that, and that's why they're changing. You know, and I was talking to Renners, who does our equipment maintenance, and they said, you know, he's like, you know what, it's a good engine. It's a good over-the-road fire truck engine. And so I tried to do my homework as much as I could in 2 weeks, and that's what we thought was the best. Financial and, you know, not financial first, but operation first and then financial. Because we don't want to buy something that's not going to be, you know, adequate, I guess. But I think if anybody's got questions or comments, because your comment might lead to a question for her, I don't know, I mean.
So, the talk of a new fire truck has been happening for 8 years. The 5-year capital improvement thing doesn't really seem to get followed very well, so maybe the strategic plan would help, but will it help only for the first 5 years, then what happens after that? When it comes to spending almost $1 million on a fire truck, I think that 3 weeks is not enough time to do enough research into buying just one vehicle. Granted, I know that state statute says that fire departments are exempt from having to get multiple bids on equipment, but I also feel that when you're spending taxpayers' monies, that 3 weeks it should be longer than 3 weeks to push out and say, this is what we want on the truck and this is the truck we want to get. And then we need to decide on it in a matter of just a short time without any other comparisons. In the end, maybe this is the right decision or the right truck to have, but you know, I personally think that there should be more things looked at, especially if some of the things that the chief wanted on his truck, he wasn't even sure and didn't get time to really check into it either. So that's.
I think as far as you know, spending the taxpayer dollars, I think is you know, the reason that we were pushing it so fast is none of us knew that price increase was coming until I talked to Renners, and Renners said, oh yeah, there's a price increase, and I talked to Pierce and they said, yeah, there's a price increase. And then I had reached out to a couple other manufacturers, and those manufacturers said, yeah, we won't we're not gonna lock in at a price. We're not gonna guarantee that this price. We're not gonna, if there's a raise in manufacturing, we're gonna come to you. If there's a raise in parts, we're gonna raise your engine on you. Pierce was the only one that hasn't raised and won't raise those costs. So knowing that there's a price increase coming midnight tonight was the reason we pushed that to get that done. So we're actually saving the taxpayers $50,000 to $60,000. So if we don't get an engine tonight, and I think the committee did do their homework, they did work extremely hard to come up with what we need, it's not what we want, it's what we needed. We've met all our needs on that fire engine, that's what I told you before. And, you know, some of those needs, we're already looking at one that we may not need, because we may see that our need is not a very good functionality at another fire department. And we haven't gone out and looked at that yet, but that's okay, because that's gonna save us money. But I think that, so at midnight tonight, that price goes up $60,000. Next year, and that we're not taking delivery of that vehicle for 2 to 3 years, we don't have to pay any more increases, but there could be $50,000, $100,000 more increases next year. So we're not doing our taxpayers, in my opinion, any service by waiting, because we could save them, we're saving them $50,000 to $60,000 tomorrow, and over a period of 2 to 3 years, we could be saving them $100,000, and we might not be. And the study might say, you know what, we don't need 3 fire engines. Maybe you need 2. But they're not gonna tell us not to replace a fire engine that's 30 plus years old, it's become a money pit.
Right.
And so,
I'm just saying that last year we talked about it, and all of a sudden we had to put that on hold and go and worry about paid on premise people.
Yep.
So, but it's kind of happened that way multiple times.
no, it's not, Mike. Mike, it's not.
Yes, it has.
What's happened is our rapid response vehicle has tried to save us wear and tear on our vehicles, and we have, right? And we kept putting it off, trying to save us from spending money. There comes a time where you just have to do it. And when the price increase was happening, we had to do it. And you're right, staffing's important. If you don't have the staff to use your vehicles, you know, you can't use your vehicles.
Please don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we don't need a truck, okay? And I'm not denying that at all.
I'm not saying you are.
Okay, so I just think it's a big rush job just to put out and purchase a lot of money, you know? And granted, it's gonna be more if we don't pass it tonight, but.
It's gonna be significantly more. I think the committee's done their homework, we got what we need. That's up to you guys, to the board, to decide whether you wanna save that money, or you wanna roll the dice and put money into a rig and buy one for more later, I guess. So,
Let me see if Doug, do you have any questions?
No, Ellen, I'm listening intently here.
Okay.
But I'm fine, we had this meeting, as far as I'm concerned, we've had it already. I understand it's a lot of money, we're gonna have to budget to get it, but we definitely need a new truck, so I'm ready.
Julie, do you have anything that you would like to add?
Just that, I mean, I'm glad you bring up the fact that this seems rushed. I mean, the reality is it is rushed. We're still under times of how we're affected by COVID. I mean, under normal circumstances where we wouldn't have found out that there was going to be a big increase. Remember, with the supply chain issues that I believe, you know, are from the effects of a worldwide pandemic, we wouldn't be making this decision so quickly. But knowing that the board we are sitting on, so maybe just remind all of us again that we talked about last time, the engines that we have, both of them are 30 plus years old, right?
well, I think, I don't have it sitting in front of me, but I can go get it. But the one's 33 or 35 years old, and the other one's 2 years younger than that. So, you know, they're gonna need to be replaced. And I understand how you guys feel it was rushed, and it was rushed, don't get me wrong. Usually it takes 3 months to do that, and we did it in 3 weeks. But we worked hard to get that done, and it's a fire, we've been doing this been in the fire service 35 plus years. I think we know that, you know, we know what we're doing. We're not
I was
rushed to
gonna
where.
say, also, you know, I mean, you've been doing firefighting for a long time. It's not as though we're guessing into what your needs are, right? The concern is to, if you're getting everything you need, what you brought up last time was you weren't sure as far as the telescoping light, right? Which is a nice thing, perhaps not needed.
It's needed, but is it operationally effective? We don't know. And so we put it in there as a need. I explained our needs before. You know, our engineers do that. We're dealing with limited manpower. There's a lot, and we operate that way. That's the way our department operates. It's a safety thing, but we need to go out and look at it. That's why we put all our needs in this worst case scenario. That was the worst case scenario dollar. I can't guarantee it's gonna drop. I have a pretty good feeling, but I can't guarantee that.
So I guess my last comments will just be that one is I can see from here the departments that Pierce works with, you know, these are local departments. You have a good, I think that really shows that, again, this is a nationwide leader in manufacturing of fire engines that we're going with. I think you had brought to us a while ago that you wanted to look at other manufacturers. When you talk to other departments that use them, they're going back to Pierce. So, I mean, if we were to take a step back and do price quotes at all these other manufacturers, what you heard from other departments is they're going back to Pierce, correct?
Yes.
And so, and then just to hear you say it again, which I know you've already said, but, you know, before we vote, would you say that the engine that was proposed, that we looked at the specs, that you said met all of your needs, do you feel that that meets the needs of our department and, you know, moving forward, that this is, in your professional opinion, the best engine that we could now get, based on our budget and our needs that we have?
That's why we went with the engine we picked, is because it meets our needs. It's gonna meet the needs of the community. And, yeah, I mean, you know, this is not just my opinion, this is the opinion of the committee the deputy chief, the
Who is on the
engineers.
committee?
Deputy Chief Sabo, Engineer Miller, Engineer Firefighter Cooper, and Lieutenant Erickson. Well, Lieutenant H, she got married, so
Okay.
she got married.
Do you want to call the salesperson and have them ask Johnny?
Or you can
Ask
text,
Jonathan's
it's fine,
question?
text.
I would rather call her and let her, that way if she says something, it might stem another, or spark another question.
Is there, do I have a,
Sure,
can I just
go ahead.
make one
Just
comment? I know
go
you guys
right
are
ahead.
in your speaking time here, but, you know, from my standpoint, I understand what everybody's saying here. If you were to spend $1 million on anything else but a fire truck, you have to get 3 bids. And that's part of the fiduciary responsibility of someone that's entitled with the public trust to look at those things. And I'm not saying, I was a chief engineer for Oshkosh Corporation and, you know, worked on it. I can't say it wasn't a good truck, they paid me all that type of thing. But in the end, I also know, I look at Pierce's annual report, and I know what kind of, the fire and access equipment division, what kind of profits they make there too. So, I don't think it has to be a win or lose, I think it's a both in the end. And I think from my standpoint, it's not clear to me on how it was arrived that Pierce was the one, on the fact that it doesn't look at, there's a criteria that was established to say, here's the 3 alternatives, or 1 alternative that we looked at, this is the one that won out and why. Now, and as we know, that big fire showdown in Minneapolis every year, Pierce is not the only person showing there.
No.
And they're not the only large fire department, or Chicago and all the other places that use Pierce. There's other large fire departments that do someplace else. I'm not at all, I know it's against popular public opinion to question the fire department because they're all here and I need them and I want them to have a good truck too. And in the end, it may come out to be the same way, but that's why in any other place where you spend that kind of money, you have that transparency in the process. And I don't see that transparency. So that's kind of what I'm asking.
Yeah, there's no answer. This is the process that they went through, so.
With, you have 1 quote. Okay. And that's a big problem.
Well, and the one big thing to that was, when I talked to the other departments, they're all having issues. They're all coming, those departments are going to Pierce. There was one went to C-grade. We can't afford a C-grade fire engine. Okay? And when we reached out to those companies, none of them were going to honor any prices that you get now 3 years from now.
Understood. I think part of it too is that when you make comparisons, there's a comment made that it's gonna cost us $50,000 more when you compare a Pierce versus a Pierce. But there's never any comparison to say, a X fire truck versus this, what is that gonna cost? Because it puts it in perspective. Everybody knows that there's price increases. You can't predict the future in the end.
Right.
And the fact that there was gonna be a price increase shouldn't be all that shocking in the end. It's happening with everything.
And, you know, all those other manufacturers are expensive too. They're not, it's not like going out and buying, you know, $100,000 fire engine when you're buying a $800,000 fire engine. Those prices are gonna be very comparable. Prices go up, it doesn't matter what the manufacturer is. I just think that, you know, if we're trying to save our constituents money, if we're trying to take care of our taxpayers, and we know this meets our needs, and we know that no one else will lock in the price, why aren't we why is there hesitation to do it? That's what led us to Pierce. We don't have to go out and get the bids, and you know, they're in our backyard. There's a lot of pros to using Pierce. And in the beginning, I wasn't in the beginning, I was open to other things, right? But the more we did our homework, the more we saw that it's not
Are you able to?
it was the direction to go.
Yeah, I think it just,
So-
if it would support your claims, if there was numbers to support it, to say, this fire truck costs this, and by the way, they're not gonna do that.
But-
This one costs this.
But also, you have to do a spec to get a cost on an
Right.
engine,
Understood.
right? So there's a process there too.
Correct.
I think you do your homework, you pick your manufacturer, and then you do your spec. So that's the process we use, that's what we came up with. If the board directs me to do something else, that's fine. You know, I appreciate your comments and your input, but been doing this a long time, I think this is the best thing for the fire district.
And again, like I said, it should be that, you know, it's from the standpoint that I'm not trying to question the fire department, I'm questioning the process that was used to develop a decision. And the fact that you have one number, and so you have nothing to compare from, other than your one number is gonna be more.
Gotcha. You want to give her a call, chief, please?
Yeah.
And thank you for those comments.
Thank you for letting me speak.
Hey, we suspended the rules. It can
I
be
know.
a free-for-all.
I know.
I didn't know that was a possibility. We can just suspend the rules every day.
We could. We can do anything we want.
I hate it, write that down.
It's just easier first.
Hi, I'm Leslie, I'm here with the board. I'm gonna, you're on speakerphone, so I'm gonna throw you out in the middle of the table, so they can all talk to you, okay? Here you go. That was not a good throw.
Okay, it's your question.
All right, this is Jonathan. My question is on the different engines and the warranty. So does the engine choice of what would go into the fire truck change what warranty that engine would come? Or is it a Pierce warranty for the full system?
So there are Pierce warranties that cover the whole truck, but the engine does have its own warranty. So let me just grab your spec here. I believe that the PACCAR is actually a year longer than the Cummins engine. Let me just check that though. Yeah, it's 5 years parts and labor. So I think the Cummins is 5 years, but only 3 years labor.
Okay. That's all I had.
Okay, any other questions while she's on the phone?
Questions from board members, I have?
Other than that, we
Well,
can.
I guess Leslie, this is Jolene. There, is again the discussion that this is rushed and it does feel rushed. And thank you for rushing because to get it in was a rush on your part to get it in before the increase. And so we recognize the work that you've done and just the reality of trying to get it done again before the price increase. Perhaps it would be beneficial. Can you just briefly remind us some of the departments? When you came the other day, we had on our sheet that you most recently had price quotes for Appleton, Sheboygan, Oshkosh, Neenah, Menasha fire departments, and just in general, some of the other fire departments around the area that have all selected Pierce as their go-to fire engine. Is there some other departments that you can briefly mention?
So this week I put Town of Oshkosh, City of Oshkosh, Neenah, Menasha, Tisch Mills, Greenville, and Ashwaubenon on order. Last week I think we put Town of Pescago, Kiel, Little Swamico, Cronenwetter bought an aerial. Appleton, so I have single source contracts, so they don't bid in Appleton, Neenah, Menasha, Oshkosh, Sheboygan, Fox Crossing put a truck on order this week. And so the reason I could give you some of those numbers and like just in comparison from years is that some of those departments that I have single source contracts with, they just buy the same truck over and over. So, you know, I could very easily compare pricing, whereas every truck is different because every department is different. You know, pricing and the size and what people need and how much water just varies so very much from department to department. And I think that, you know, your fire department, you know, covering a district with a town and a village and some other rural areas, like that's a tough bag to kind of get all in one sweep. And I think your committee did a really good job in a really rapid time frame. But, you know, that's why I said I think we put everything in and to make sure we didn't miss anything. And I'm pretty positive that we'll be able to hone it easily without, you know, and still save a lot of money for the taxpayer. So it's probably a win-win.
And Leslie, remember you talked about, what was the number on, if you recall, the engine that was bought January of last year January this year compared to the engine they just ordered that was identical?
That was Neenah, Menasha, and that went up just this January, and I just put a truck on order for them today, and it went up $131,000 since January. And it was an $800,000 engine, so yeah, and the one that I put on order, they're actually having a board meeting tonight also, I'm waiting for them. Oshkosh, they went to the warranty body, which is what you guys are doing, but again, from January to today, that price went up by almost $160,000.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for her?
I had a question when we were talking about the lights when you were here.
Yep.
Did you have to get a generator on the truck? How much
For
power?
the larger, like a night scan one that would articulate up in the air and be able to point, has, you know, usually about 6 light heads on it. That would usually require a generator. This truck, as it's spec'd out, has all LED scene lights around it, so 2 on each side, 2 at the rear, 1 in the front. But they take such little draw that they can all be run off the alternator.
And then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was wondering why they couldn't be run off a big generator off the
You
engine.
get to a certain point where you're just kind of hitting that point where, you know, the alternator is going to be overworked.
But again, we talked about a generator, but the cost of the generator was 30 something.
Yeah,
and
grand.
like she
Most light
said,
towers range from 18 to 30 grand, depending on how many light heads and how many different options are in there. So it's a pricey option. Usually departments, if they have one somewhere nearby, they kind of get by with that.
but like you said, on engines these days, you really don't see a lot of generators on them anyway.
I don't
Just on
think
more
that
rescues.
outside of an aerial that one of my salesmen sold last week, I don't think any of the trucks that I booked this week actually have generators on them.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll let her go. Okay, somebody wanna issue shoot that back down.
All right, bye, Leslie.
Okay, thanks, John.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you for your time.
No problem. Bye.
So you guys ready for a
I
vote?
thought you were gonna slide it down to me, I could've got up for it.
I figured you'd miss it when it hit the floor and cracked the screen.
We're gonna take a
And,
roll.
and the, obviously the plan for funding this, do we want to review it for folks listening moving forward?
Well, the city would bond for their portion of it, which would be like 77%. And the towns would split it, let's see, who gave me the whatever I think I shoved it back in here. The percentages, like Nepiescum is a little over 3%. So about 20% for the town of Ripon. Does that sound right, Barry?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'd like to do is a roll call vote.
So we're voting on a fire truck that costs $885,000.
885,000.
That won't be available in
Worst case.
two years, even if we get it in now.
32 to 36 months.
Mhm.
Ready?
And we're voting on one engine.
Correct. We haven't talked about two.
Just wanted to clarify.
It's a good thing to clarify.
New
I sure
fire.
feel dumb voting on two.
No, we're not talking about two, so. All right, Wargula,
No.
Vanderbrink. You want me to come back to you?
Yes. No, I mean, I'll
Yes.
vote yes.
Oh, okay. Page,
Yes.
Gatsky,
You want to say something?
I just wanted to say, I'm not doing this because the other engines are old, I'm doing it because it's gonna take so long. And I know that we're probably gonna need one. You know, that engine still works.
Yes.
Schatzinger,
Yes.
Iverson,
Yes.
Sorensen, yes. Motion passes.
Yeah, when you hit 3 years, throw some sugar in the gas tank or something. Make us feel like we really bought this for a reason.
No, I'm sorry.
When you hit 3 years, throw some sugar in the gas tank and one out here. Make us be a fuel tank. It's like gas.
Phil asked that.
And now we'll move on to the next thing, which is to select a consultant for the 5-year strategic plan.
Before we move on, do you need to call Leslie so she can get the paperwork in?
She sent me the contract fee for,
So are we covered? You're gonna get it in time? I mean, since we just
Yeah.
voted?
as long as I scan it and get it back to her.
Okay.
So, we had 2 consultants, and what I'd like to have you do is discuss what you thought about the consultants, and then when it looks like we've come to consensus, you need to, maybe somebody should make a motion to select one.
Could we have the price on those consultants?
I didn't bring mine, Jolene.
I do.
Okay. So McMahon was more expensive than the strategic consulting.
Yeah, I had written down.
Strategic's the one with the 2 people.
Yep, they were the first one.
Okay, where was the prices?
I think that strategic actually was much more prepared and gave a better presentation than
You think it's because they're more familiar with the community?
I don't know, they had a book for us to follow along and I don't know, that's how I felt.
The only thing if I can just throw out there, is, you know, I just felt that the first one, they're both very good, don't get me wrong, but the first one, I think, I really looked through everybody's, experience, certifications, that type of thing, education. A lot of it was EMS based. I felt their presentation was more geared towards EMS. I just felt that the second one was geared more towards the fire end of it.
They're gonna do whatever we hire them
Sure,
to do,
sure.
which is not EMS.
But I just think that the second one was, in my opinion, more geared for what we're looking for.
Jolene, did you find the prices?
I did. So the strategic management and consulting, which was the first one that presented, to your point, they were the one that brought the additional, information, additional book for the night of the presentation where they had two folks. So there, they had two options, option 1 and option 2. The first option was only for staffing and salaries only. It seems to me that we have already agreed, we're doing a comprehensive 5-year, which means that the option 2 for the review of the entire scope as outlined was $29,500. And they also had a payment schedule where you wouldn't pay it entirely until the final report. Whereas the McMahon engineers, time and expense estimated at $35,000 to $40,000. So that was, it's either a $5,000 to $10,000 increase. They did not give us a specific dollar amount as to what that would be, so that's what they were quoted on. Interesting, Chief, that you were saying that you thought the second one, if I were to just as I sat and thought about how they connected, it seemed that the first presentation seemed that you connected easier with them, but that was just from my general understanding. I obviously talked to you about how you felt in that, but also they gave some more examples of more Wisconsin-based, it sounded like, and it sounded like even how they talked about they provide almost idea sheets. They work with folks who maybe aren't doing an entire 5-year comprehensive plan, strategic plan, but they say, I need help with this, or I need help with this, that they provide those sheets. I don't know if they call them idea sheets. And so I like that it seemed quite tangible. The second presentation was quite professional. They provide kind of a larger scope, perhaps more of departments. It seemed like perhaps from a larger area. But I didn't get the sense that it would be as, I don't know. I got the sense from the first presentation that they were going to be able to hand us real life situations, real, solutions to meeting our needs now. And the other one, I think also they could, but it just seemed a little bit more high level, which maybe might give us some new ideas. But with the reality of our time and budget, I don't know. I could be open. I guess I'm open. And if Chief, you thought the second one, I thought you might have said the first one just on mine. But now that you're seeing the second one, I guess maybe I can put some more weight into that.
I'm looking at just the individuals who are the evaluators. And I look at what this one has. 2 out of 3 of his positions he's held were for EMS. A lot of his, 4 of the 4 on the bottom are EMS. The next individual, 4 of his 5 things that he, his recognitions and awards and stuff like that and certifications are 4 out of 5 are EMS. And then you have this guy's National Registered Paramedic. I think that overall, if you look at their qualifications, a lot of it's based on EMS. Not saying they can't do fire stuff.
Well, of course they can do fire stuff. Dana Seckler was a fire chief that I worked with. Yeah.
I just gave my opinion.
Yeah.
So I was being asked, I gave my opinion.
Yeah.
I think if you choose either one, they're both going to give us a final product that's what we want, like you said.
They're good. We will set the terms of the contract.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Doug, do you have any comments?
Yeah, thank you. I really felt more comfortable with the man. He felt like, I felt like he understood that it was about the fire department, and it didn't seem like he just regurgitated what was on the handout. And I know he was done a little earlier than the strategic was, but to me, it felt like I felt more comfortable with him, and that we would get a report and a plan that would really help us. But that's just me, it's just my feeling toward it, so, thank you, Ellen.
Sure. Anybody else?
Which one did he like?
He liked McMahon.
I have to say, I like McMahon, but I don't really like the price.
Me too.
I thought McMahon, I liked what he had to say. And I thought he'd really do a good job.
But remember, the money for this is coming out of the fund.
Yeah, I know, but it's still money.
It's still a lot. It's still a lot. I agree, it's a lot. Barry, do you have any thoughts?
Nothing you wanna hear.
You sure? Jonathan?
I like McMahon more. I thought that when I walked away from the two presentations, not that one is worse than the other, but I thought the first one was a little more conversational. The second one was a little more professional, which that's fine either way. But in the second presentation, I thought there was a little more of what I could see that they were putting the puzzle pieces together of what we were looking for without us spelling it out to them. And then the third piece, what I liked about McMahon was the structure of McMahon itself as a company, that there was a lot, there were other pieces to that company. It wasn't just the management consulting part, right? The new management consulting for McMahon, they say that was an offshoot of the rest of their business, right? They had risk management, they had city planning, they had city engineering. So there was a lot of other pieces. So I think if I look at that between the two companies, that there might be more like cross-functional expertise that they would be able to lean on from the other pieces of their business that you wouldn't get from the strategic company.
Do you think you're ready to somebody ready to make a motion, or?
When it comes to McMahon, are we able to get it, I guess if we're voting now, we can't know exactly what their costs will be?
That would be part of the negotiations.
Yeah.
I thought McMahon was gonna make sure we understood exactly what they had and they would do what we wanted them to do. That not the strategic one. I thought they were good too, but I just felt a little better about McMahon. Except the money.
Yeah.
That said, I thought they had the lamest portfolio, how it was like a divider for every single page, right? It's like a divider, and then there's like one page of information, and then another divider, if I'm remembering that file correctly.
Yeah, here it
It was
is.
just like,
Yeah, there it is.
like an overly complicated binder for what it really needed to be.
Well, in part of things, yeah. It's funny, are we paying for that? I mean, yeah, they're the most expensive one, and they put on the most expensive paper book. but I don't know, I guess I really, Chief, I mean, obviously as a board, we're gonna all be working together, but, you know, you're the one that's gonna have to work hand in hand in getting them the information and that.
I'd like to, in December, put a committee together along with the chief and maybe a couple of board members to work with them also, because we need a lot of help with policies and procedures versus.
And they did say they're gonna involve other people, and that's, you know, again, whichever one comes in, I'm gonna work with. Like,
Right.
and whichever one comes in is gonna give us a report. If you wanna go the McMahon way, and you feel that's what's best, then go the McMahon way. If you don't, go the other way, but I think that thousands of dollars there, you know, we're not raising the budget for that, it's coming out of a fund that's there. I think we go with what you guys feel is the best, to give us what our needs are, so.
Is anyone ready to make a motion?
I guess I'll move to
Select.
McMahon for the 5-year strategic plan.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Doug. Okay, I'll do a roll call vote.
I don't need discussion.
You want more discussion?
But I mean, isn't that just part of parliamentary procedure?
Yes, go ahead. Any more discussion?
Yeah, I guess my discussion would be, are you then as a board president, who's negotiating the cost? I still don't feel like we have a sense.
It would be probably me and the chief.
as well as strategic, they had a proposed timeline, and I don't see a proposed timeline from them. So as part of the motion, I guess I would feel comfortable, or just knowing that we're moving forward, then negotiating the final cost and a timeline that we will also be presented with.
You're okay with
Yeah, I'm
that?
fine with that.
Okay, did you catch that, Doug?
Yeah, I caught it.
Okay. All right. Are we ready? Do roll call. Wargula,
Yes.
Vandenbrink,
Yes.
Page,
What are we guessing?
that we hire McMahon,
Yes.
Gatsky,
Yes.
Schatzinger,
Yes.
Iverson,
Yes.
and Sorensen, yes. Okay, thank you all. Will you let them know, and that we'd like them here for the December 5th meeting so that we can talk with them about direction, and then, hopefully we'll have a contract negotiated with them by then.
For what it's worth here, it wasn't $800,000, but we did start with 4 and whittled down. So you're only hearing us talk about 2, but kind of left off the 2 at the beginning.
Okay, now, the agenda, the budget. So we're gonna move on to the budget, but, do you wanna discuss the budget first, or do you want a motion? Before we would make a motion to accept the budget, we would have to do a motion to move the revenue line for fire call fees from capital to operating revenue. We have to do that before we vote on the budget, according to the rules.
One more time, we have to move.
We have to move the revenue line for fire call fees from the capital revenue to operational revenue. That's what Barb said we had to do.
Line item we talked about.
It's just that one line item.
30 or 80,000.
And then that's the 60,000. It's a housekeeping issue.
Does that change the number at all?
It doesn't change anything. It just makes our operating budget balance. There's been there's no money in that capital revenue account, maybe 27,000. This way, we move it up here, and they have to send out those bills for fire calls.
So we're talking about getting our fire call money. That's what
Yeah.
we're dealing with.
Yeah,
But now, I thought that the money that we got from the fire calls was supposed to go into capital.
well, it doesn't appear that it has to.
Well, I know something, well, I think I've been thinking about this because where did that money come from? But every year I say, let's move this into here. Well, we can't do it until the auditors come. And I think when the auditors came, after it's all straightened out, it just got thrown into which I believe
I
that.
can't tell you. I asked where the money in that fund came from, and I cannot get an accounting of it.
Nobody gives us an answer.
Nope.
Because we all thought, where did this money come from?
Yeah, well, and we get if you look at the report, I showed Mike the financials, it's zeroed out every month. It says the money is restricted. Well, restricted for what? I don't know. Ask for an accounting of what's in there and where it's been going, and I cannot get one. So I do have another call into Amber. I'm gonna try to talk to her this week. But the recommendation is that we cannot continue to
Tax with that money, but
right.
see, I think according to our rules, that money was supposed to go into capital
Yes,
funding.
yes. And that's why the motion has to be made to move it into,
So if we move it in,
Operational.
all right, but if we move it into the operational, then it's not in the capital, or do we move it back again later?
well, we leave the money that's in capital there.
And then anything left over
would
from,
go into capital. We can move into capital.
like, that 50,000 left over from this year or whatever, that would go into capital improvements.
Well, not if it's levy.
True,
You're not gonna do that if
I
it's
guess.
levy.
okay. Sorry, Cindy.
Yeah. I get a little funny
Well,
about
then
that.
then I think we'd have to vote on changing the, rules that we've got set up.
Right.
Boy, I couldn't vote to change it. So now what?
Then you don't have a balanced budget.
But to Gary's thing, you could always take and move that money later if you
No,
need
if you have capital, you're not moving capital into operations.
to. Okay.
Doesn't work that way.
No, we're moving operation into capital.
You're not moving levy into capital.
Well, if that money that was left over goes into the capital,
If it's not levy. If it's levy, you use it.
well, isn't everything we get?
We're talking about fire fees. We're
Well-
talking about if there's extra money in fire fees, then it can go into capital. Levy cannot go into capital. And you should never take capital for operating expenses. That's why the motion has to be
No, I
made to
agree.
move the capital revenue into the operational revenue.
I'll make that motion.
Oh.
Can you
Okay,
be specific as to what that motion is?
Well, what did you just say, Ellen? That's the motion.
Well, the motion would be to move the revenue line for fire call fees from the capital budget to the operational budget.
Yep.
I'll second it.
Okay, and seconded by Jolene. Okay, more discussion.
Okay, you just said we could use, fire fees could go into capital.
That's where it is now. You're saying if we have extra money in fire fees, say we've got a $60,000 budget for fire calls, for fire call fees. If we book 70,000, 10,000 can go into capital. Levy just shouldn't go into the capital.
And that number wasn't 75,000. And we lowered it to 60,000, more realistic. But again, hopefully with the strategic planning, that's the first spot I'd like to, one of the first spots I hope that they go for us is our billing end of it. And with our new software, it'll make things a lot better.
Because I thought actually, this is the sheet that never gets paid. I thought that sheet was like $10,000.
We're not talking about that sheet. We're talking about, right now, we found that they hadn't even been billing for fire fees. Only 2 in January.
Oh, we had, but we haven't, yes.
So they're now billing, trying to pay catch up on those fees.
Right.
So those fees, what the motion on the floor is to move that revenue line from capital to the operational budget. That's what it is. And if there's extra money, that can go back into capital. We also have to develop best practice for internal controls for our money. We have no internal controls for our money, which is why things are so messed up.
Where that money's coming from.
And where it's going.
Right.
Because your capital budget should have more than $27,000 in it.
Well, it did have, and then we bought some. What did we get then? Oh, that white car.
Yeah, we got, command car.
Okay.
But see, I was just looking at this and it's 16,000, but it's not this, it's one of these other ones. I'm just not clear on this.
That's okay.
And I'm a little confused too, because if you're charging for fire calls, that's a projected fire call that you're gonna get from next year or from
It's
this year?
2023. 2023. This is the budget for 2023.
This
Right.
is what we're guessing we're gonna get in.
Mhm.
And all our projections, we've always had leftover leftover funds, you know? I mean, we're, very cautious about our budget.
Are there any other questions?
These are pretty much the fees that you're sending out for fire calls, right?
And we voted on those a few months ago.
No, yeah, I mean, these are the bills that went out to these people for their fire calls. So. And that's not all the fees, that's the ones that are due, some of those are past due
Is that for this year?
from a long,
Some of them are long.
from a long time ago. You know, some are from this year, some are past due from a long time.
And Doug's looking into that.
So
Yeah.
that's a long way from 60 grand.
Well, you have to build to get the money.
Right?
And if we do the tax intercept too, that's gonna be huge. And one bill on there is $2,000, I'm sure there's others out there too.
Have you ever had Tom Moniz as our attorney send them bad dog letters to pay their money?
You know, I don't think the board's ever done that. Again.
That would cost us money, right?
We haven't had bite in our, and that's part of what we've talked about in the past, is having more bite to the billing. The tax intercept, having them being more, hey, you're gonna go to collections, you know, I mean, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yep, it is. So, right now, the motion on the, hold on, Doug. The motion on the floor is to move the revenue line for fire call fees from capital to operational revenue. If there are no more questions, I'm going to do a roll call vote.
We have to do that to balance this budget.
Yes. Are we ready? Cordula,
Yes.
Vanderbrink,
Yes.
Just a minute.
Gage,
Yes,
Yatsky,
Yes.
Schatzinger,
Yes.
Iverson,
Yes.
and Sorensen. Yes. Okay. Now, do you want to talk about the budget? Or do you want to just make a motion to approve the budget as presented with a 1% increase in levy?
I make a motion to approve the budget with a 1% increase in the levy.
Okay, Doug, did you get that?
Yes.
That was Gary. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Jonathan seconded it. Is there any more discussion about the budget? Seeing none, we'll do another roll call vote. Wardula,
Yes.
Vanderbrink,
Yes.
Page,
Yes,
Katsky,
Yes.
Schatzinger,
Yes.
Iverson,
Yes.
and Sorensen, yes. Okay. Thank you all. And thank you all for your patience tonight. Because
thank you for your patience. I just had some questions tonight.
No, it's, look, this is not the only organization that's struggling based on past accounting practices from the city. It's nothing.
Nothing new.
Nothing, well, it's coming to light. So it's nothing that you all did, because you're only as good as the information you're given.
Well, it really didn't cost us any money. The money's there, it's just, we didn't know it was there.
Okay,
Which means we didn't spend it.
well, but we have to develop a policy for how much we want to retain in there and what you want to retain it for. And then I was looking, I have a meeting tomorrow for the foundation, and we have 35 different restricted accounts, and the dollar amounts every quarter are given in those. And when I ask for that, or you ask for that, we should be able to get an accounting of all the revenue that came in and what it was for. And that's how it's supposed to work. So for new business, is there any board discussion or communications? Okay, so what I have for the next agenda is we'll go into closed session and discuss personnel issues, because we talked about that last week. We'll have the consultant here. We'll talk a little bit about best practices for internal controls. So I'll talk with Amber a little bit about that. We may want to assign that to the McMahon too, to help us with that. We could do that. And then think about whether or not you want to help serve on the committee for the 5-year strategic plan. It would be nice, in addition to the chief, to have at least 2 or 3 board members. 2. Is there anything else that we need to have on here?
Well, those McMahon's coming to that meeting.
We'll invite them to that meeting, yes. Yeah. I do have a question about the chicken barbecue. Who does that? Is that the association? Okay. Right.
Just help.
Oh, we help, okay. I'm just checking, because I'm gonna make sure I'm back this year for that. Okay, cool.
Well,
Okay,
it's good, but it's not that good if you're someone else. I mean, you know.
I go to San Diego for,
I want to come back from San Diego. Just
no, I have to come back for something else, but I'll eat the chicken barbecue. Okay. If there's no other information, our next meeting is December 6th, 7 p.m. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second it.
Thank you, Mike and Julie. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
I
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you all.